Okay, so I've got some handouts for you guys. This is a copy of the presentation. You might want it because it's a little bit bright in here for the projector. My name is Jenny Askew and I'm a dietitian. I do a lot of work, thank you, with individuals who have chronic illnesses and they want to see, you're welcome, if food is playing a role in their disease. I also do lots of presentations for corporations and trainings for staff who deal with people on restricted diets. So if anyone wants a copy of this, I'm not sure, should I just send it to you?
You can.
Okay, and then you can just distribute it to everyone? Okay, it's probably easier than everyone giving me their email address. So the presentation today is called 10 Healthy Things That You Can Do in 10 Minutes or Less. And it's just that. It's just little things that you can add into your day or change in your diet to help you be healthier. So they're simple. Anybody can do them. You could start doing them today if you wanted to. One of the great things about the presentation is that it's got a lot of live links for different resources that can help you to achieve these things. So when I send the PDF out, you guys will have access to all of those resources that we're going to be looking at today. Okay, so the first healthy thing on our list of healthy things is really easy. It's just adding either a fruit or vegetable to your day. Does anybody know how many fruits and vegetables we need to eat in a day? A lot. Is there a number? Does anybody have a number for how many fruits and veggies we should eat each day? 6? 3 to 4 servings. Okay, anyone else? How many fruits and veggies do we need a day? Okay, y'all are close. So the recommendation is 5. If you ask the USDA, they'll tell you 5. If we are eating 5 fruits and vegetables, how many fruits should we eat and how many vegetables should we eat? Is it okay to just eat like 5 fruits or just 5 veggies?
I say mix it up, divide it half and half.
Okay, half and half. Good. I usually say 2 fruits and the rest vegetables, and always leafy greens included in those veggies. It's also important to differentiate between vegetables and starchy vegetables because they're not the same thing. Does anybody know what the starchy vegetables are?
Potatoes.
Good. Yep. Okay. Any others? Peas are a starchy veggie, and winter squashes are always a starchy veggie.
The little green peas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the winter squashes are the ones with the harder outer shells, like butternut squash, spaghetti squash, eggcorn squash, and then the summer squashes are not starchy. Those are the things like zucchini and the yellow crookneck squash. So we want to do 2 fruits and at least 3 veggies a day. Starchy vegetables don't count towards the vegetable intake, and that's for general health. So if we really want to see health benefits and see fruits and vegetables help reduce our risk of cancer and help our bodies detoxify, we're actually looking at more like 9 servings a day of fruits and veggies. Again, I would say the fruits are more like 2 to 3. The rest of that is going to be vegetables. So that's a lot. So just starting by adding one of those things to your day is something that you could do that could make a really big difference in terms of health. Okay, next slide.
I can ask you the sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
Are also considered starch.
Yes, sweet potatoes are also a starchy vegetable. Good question. Oops, sorry, I forgot I did this. This is,
Sounds like
I thought I took it out. So this is moving more throughout the day. There's lots of different ways you can do this. This might be something like on your lunch break, you just take 10 minutes and go for a walk. This taking the steps, which I guess we can't do here, but at home, if you want to do extra laps on the stairs, that's something that you could do. Or just something as simple as dancing. It's just whatever gets you moving that you enjoy, that you know you can do each day. It's a really good step towards getting more exercise. And as long as you're doing your exercise in 10-minute bouts, it's enough to make a difference in your overall health. All right, next slide, please. Okay, has anyone checked out your local farmer's market? Yeah, which ones have you guys been to here?
There's the DeKalb one. Oh, Marietta. That's a real good one.
I've heard that
Also
one's
Rome
good.
has a nice one.
And then
Yeah.
the smaller towns, you know, they have one day that you can go, like Kennesaw and Powder Springs.
They
Mhm.
also have them in Midland and Powder Springs. Yeah.
Good. So you guys do check out farmers markets. This is a really good way to get fresh produce that's locally grown, which is really good for the environment because it's not being shipped across the United States. And it's also good for your local economy just to be supporting your local farmers because then they can put that money back into your local economy. And there's a website at the bottom of this slide, and it's a link to a website called localharvest.org. And that is a website where you can type in your zip code and it will pull up farmers markets that are near you. And I think there's 2 or 3 actually here in Douglasville. This is so cool. It's called the 7-Minute Scientific Workout. Has anybody heard of the 7-Minute Scientific Workout?
No.
This is awesome. It was developed by the American College of Sports Medicine a couple of years ago, and it is a full body workout that can be done in 7 minutes, and it works all of your major muscle groups. So in 7 minutes, you can get a complete workout. So you can no longer say that, you don't have time to exercise because this is 7 minutes. And if you don't have 7 minutes in your day, then you might need to reprioritize to have, some time for yourself. And this has a really great link also. It's actually in the title of the slide. So when you get these, you guys can click on that and it will take you to a timer that counts down for you the 7 minutes and shows you what exercise to be doing. So it's 30 seconds of each exercise. So you do 30 seconds of jumping jacks and then you rest for 10 seconds. And then you do 30 seconds of a wall sit, and then you rest for 10 seconds, and so on. So it's also, the other great thing about this is you don't really need any equipment. You can do it at home. You could do it in your cubicle. You guys could do it all together on your lunch break in this room. You would have plenty of space. The only thing that you need is a chair, and if you wanted to sub out these chair exercises, you could just do squats. You don't have to if you don't have that piece of equipment available, and of course you would want a sturdy chair if you were going to do that. But this is something that's super easy in terms of fitting it into your day. It is a bit of a more intense exercise, so there might be some times where you want to take longer breaks and just extend the length of the workout itself. But it is a great way to get in a full body workout in only 7 minutes. Okay, next, please. Thank you. One thing that only takes 10 minutes is to actually plan out your meals and make a grocery list. Who plans out their meals before they go to the grocery store? Nobody?
No, we got one.
Good, Shauna. Do you have any tips or strategies for planning meals?
No, not really. Me and my son are difficult. We don't like to eat leftovers. So,
Okay.
If we have chicken on Sunday and we use the same chicken on Monday, we got to have different sides with it. So I always try to decide, okay, we have a spaghetti one day, we having baked chicken this day, we having tacos the other day. So that helps me to make sure I don't forget something on my list if I already know what we don't have, potentially for that week.
Good. So you take an inventory of what you've got and then you plan out your week to make sure that your meals, you have everything that you need. Good. One tip, if anyone's interested in doing this, it's a really good way to be able to cook at home, and cooking at home always saves things like calories, fat, sodium in your diet. One tip that I have for this is to take the different nights. It can be really overwhelming if you look at like Monday through Friday and you have to pick out a different meal for every night, but if you take each night and give it a theme, like Monday is maybe Mexican, Tuesdays are Italian, Wednesdays are a fish, then you have a little bit of a way to kind of plug into each day instead of looking at 5 to 7 days and just being like, oh my gosh, what are we going to eat? This is totally overwhelming. It just gives you a little bit of organization. And also, taking an inventory, kind of like Shauna was saying, and seeing what you have on hand before you go to the store. You might find, especially if you're somebody who goes to the store a lot and kind of buys without a whole lot of thought behind the process, that you actually have enough stuff in your fridge or freezer to make a couple of meals to the point where it could save you some money at the grocery store. So that planning and organization helps with you being able to prepare foods at home, and it helps make things more efficient when it comes to mealtime, and you're also more likely to eat healthier because you're going to have less fat, sodium, calories, etc. in your diet. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you.
Good at that, Nikki? She's very good. I'm all doing two things at once, girl.
It is a very important job. I appreciate it. So this is something for relaxation. Has anybody heard of belly breathing?
I have none.
Okay, it's something we can all practice right now. What do you know about belly breathing?
The taking in and taking out, and make sure you're doing it slow in the same amount of time as you're going back out. To kind of make it.
And you puff out your stomach on the breathing in.
Good. So a lot of times when we're stressed, we're going to be taking short, shallow breaths that are coming from our chest. Belly breathing forces you to breathe in and out of your stomach area, which allows you to draw in more oxygen and helps to decrease the stress response. So we can all practice this. Put one hand on your stomach, one hand on your chest, and close your eyes and just breathe regularly for just a few breaths and figure out which hand is moving. If you notice that your top hand is moving, the one on your chest, we want to intentionally force our breath down into the abdomen. So we want to make it so that we are breathing with our stomach and not our chest. Can anyone feel the difference? Did you notice at first maybe you were breathing up here and you switched it down here and it's a little bit more of relaxing, you get more oxygen. It's good for the stress response. So that's something that you can practice at any time, especially if you notice that you're in a stressful situation. Maybe you get stuck in traffic and you're gripping the wheel. You take a deep breath and you notice it's all coming from here. Switch it to down here and it will actually help you to relax a little bit faster. There's this app, it's called Breathe to Relax, and it's something that you can download on your smartphone, and it takes you through a series of breathing exercises that force you to belly breathe and elicit the stress or the relaxation response. So it's kind of a meditative breathing training that you can do for free on your smartphone. Okay, go ahead. Okay, so if you're someone who doesn't like planning meals and doesn't know where to start in the kitchen, these links will take you to 3 recipes that you can make in 10 minutes or less, which is amazing. And they're all pretty inexpensive. We have a frittata, which is going to be a vegetarian dish with eggs. There's a tuna melt and black bean quesadillas. So these are all really simple recipes that you guys can just click the links to get. And like I said, you could put these on your meal plan for a week and you would have 3 nights already taken care of. And they're super inexpensive to make too. So they're easy, healthy, and not expensive, which is always a good combination of things when we're meal planning, right? Okay, who has seen this plate before? Anybody?
Yeah.
Okay,
Similar to that Sonoma diet plate.
the Sonoma diet plate. So this
Looks similar, it's not the same.
is the new food guide pyramid that came out a few years ago, and what it's doing is it's showing you exactly what your plate should look like so that you get a variety of nutrients in your diet and so that the foods that you have are portioned out properly. So if you look at this plate, we've roughly got a quarter of the plate being fruits, a quarter of it being grains, a quarter of it being veggies, and roughly a quarter of it being protein. And then we have a side of dairy, which is optional. There's lots of ways to get calcium other than dairy. So if you're someone who doesn't tolerate dairy well, that's okay. There's lots of non-dairy calcium sources. But what you do want to focus on is half of your plates being fruits and veggies, portion controlling the grains, because a lot of times in America, our plates will be half grains and half protein, and we kind of forget about the fruits and vegetables. So one way to just kind of keep that in check is to divide your plate into 4 sections with each different food group. And one thing that's really important about this plate is that it's supposed to be 9 inches. Okay, so that's another thing to think about. If we're eating off of a bigger plate, obviously we're going to be getting bigger portions. So that's a consideration to keep in mind. And if you think about the last meal that you had, just in your mind kind of compare it to how this plate looks and think about where you could have improvement? Like what could have been different to make your plate look more like the recommendation? And this is also a really good way to keep your carbohydrates in control. A lot of times we have too many carbohydrates in our diet, and if we portion it out this way, then the carbohydrate foods, which are the fruits and the grains on this plate, as well as dairy, are in proper portions. So we're not going to be eating too many carbs. Then we're also getting the correct amount of protein as well as vegetables. And if you ate this and then you were still hungry, kids, does anyone have like an idea of what might be a good way to go about having second helpings?
Fruits and vegetables, right?
Yeah, fruits and
Water.
vegetables. Okay, water. Yeah, loading up on the healthier items on the plate. Veggies, if you worked out right before dinner and this is dinner, then maybe some more protein. If you're short on fruits that day, then go for your fruit. But think about, what you've had that day as well as what you've been doing to determine what might be the next best thing to get if you wanted to have second helpings. Okay, next slide, please. Any questions so far? Okay, can you hit that a couple more times? I think they're on an animated. Okay, perfect, thanks. So another thing that we could do in less than 10 minutes is write our own exercise prescription. So the recommendations for adults in exercise are 2.5 hours or 150 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity each week. So where are we in here? Do we have regular exercisers? Okay, one. Anybody else exercise like on a, at least a weekly basis?
Yeah, at least once or twice a week.
Okay.
I would say once, twice a week.
Okay, good. So one of the reasons that you guys can probably relate, but that they changed recommendations, it used to be 30 minutes a day for 5 days a week, but they've changed it to 2.5 hours or 150 minutes a week, is because people are so busy these days that it's really hard to find a 30-minute window in your day to exercise. So they changed the guidelines to say, we don't care how much you're getting each day, just as long as over the course of the week you get 150 minutes. So then we want to think about at least getting 10 minutes of exercise at a time when we do exercise. And the FIT principle, whenever we're talking about exercise and writing a prescription or coming up with our own program, we want to think about frequency, which is the F, intensity, which is the I, time, so how long are we going to exercise, and type, so what kind of exercise are we going to participate in. Okay, so go ahead to the next slide, and I'm going to show you guys something that I think gets missed a lot when people are doing this. So when we look at intensity, which is the I in the FIT principle, we want to make sure that we're working at a moderate intensity, which doesn't have to really be that hard of an intensity. So a 0 would be doing nothing at all, a 5 would be feeling like you're doing a heavy exercise, and then for a 10, we have a very, very heavy maximal exercise, like maybe like you just ran a marathon, like you cannot do another thing. So we really just want it to be a moderate exercise. Another way you can tell if you're working at least a moderate intensity is that you can talk to the person that you're working out with, or you could talk if you needed to if you're working out by yourself, but you can't carry on a conversation. So you can talk for a minute or two, and then you need to catch your breath. Okay, so we want to make sure that heart rate's up and that we're working, but it doesn't have to be anything that's like crazy or really hard that we're doing. And the other thing is that if you work at like a heavy or a very heavy intensity, so if you're a high intensity exerciser, the recommendations actually drop down to 75 minutes a week of exercise. So if you're working really hard, you can get away with half the amount of exercise based on your intensity level. And different people have different propensities towards different exercise intensities. Some people really like working hard, and some people don't, and we've actually found that that's a genetic predisposition. So if you don't like working hard, don't. Just do something like, walking with a buddy, or maybe a light aerobics class, something that you're going to enjoy and that you're going to do so that you continue to do it. It's more important to like what you do so that you do it on a regular basis than anything else. Otherwise, we're not going to exercise at all. Okay, questions here? Okay, next slide, please. Okay, number 9 is look at the food label, so the nutrition facts panel. And who here uses the nutrition facts panel when they're picking out an item, like a food product? Good, so most of us. And what are you guys looking for on the panel?
Sugars and carbohydrates.
Carbs, sugars. What
Used to be
else?
a lot of the sodium, but
Okay. Anything else that we're looking for on the food?
Sometimes calories.
Sometimes calories. Okay. And what do you guys use? I'm just curious as your cutoff for sugar or carbs. How do you know if you're getting a lot?
usually if it's over 4 to 5 grams of sugar in whatever I'm buying, I don't get it.
Okay.
So
And how do you determine if the carbs are high?
per serving.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really know about the whole carb thing. I guess it's one of those things you think you look at, but
Okay, I'll tell you guys what my tip is for all of this. And the cool thing is that you can use this for any food item across the board, and you just have to remember two numbers. Sugar's a little different. I'll tell you guys about sugar in a minute. But when we're looking at the nutrition facts panel, you can use the percent daily value, which is this number over here, all the way to the right of the label. And we're going to have two numbers that we use as kind of markers for information. One is 5, so anything that's 5% or less is low. The other number is 20, so anytime we see 20% or more, that item's going to be high in that nutrient. And the interesting thing about the nutrition facts panel, can you go forward one slide? I want to see. Yes, so the interesting thing about the nutrition facts panel is that the nutrients we typically are trying to avoid are going to be towards the top here. So we've got fat, cholesterol, and sodium all towards the top. And then the nutrients under those are going to be the ones that are more nutritious except for sugar, but that doesn't have a percent daily value. So we'll talk about that in a minute. It's kind of a special exception. But when we're looking at these numbers here, we want these things to be more towards the 5s, right? So anything up top, the fat, the cholesterol, and the sodium is going to, want to see that around 5%. And then anything down here towards the bottom, we want to see those higher because those are the nutrients that are good for us. So things like fiber, carbohydrates. So this is interesting. It's really not an exception to the rule. 10's kind of moderate. A normal diet, if you can have 3 servings of carbs per meal, which is going to come out to 45 grams. So this has 31 grams, but I will tell you, this is a serving of macaroni and cheese. Okay?
That's a high carb though.
Yeah, so
For a serving, and it says 10%.
for one serving of macaroni and cheese, you're at 10% of your day's needs for carbohydrates, and you've got about 15 grams of carbs left for that meal before you start getting high. So you might see this and say, thinking of everything else in my day and everything else in my diet on this plate or what have you, that you might want to pick something besides the mac and cheese because one serving is going to give you two carbohydrates. And there's a lot better places that we could be getting our carbs from besides macaroni and cheese, right? It's so good. So you could have it if you wanted, and it would still fit.
You got your dairy in there with
You're getting some calcium. I mean, it could be a whole grain macaroni noodle, right? There's lots of variables, but something to think about. So if we just start using that 5 and 20 as a cutoff, we can easily identify if something is healthier or if it's a little bit less healthy. And then down here where we have the nutrients, of course, we want to always see those as high. And you're right, the calcium for the macaroni and cheese comes in at 20%. So technically, it's an excellent source of calcium. Questions about this?
what was the exception with the sugar?
Oh, good one. Sugar. Yes. So I always tell people to use that 5 grams as a cutoff. Anytime there's more than 5 grams of sugar in a food, you need to look at the ingredients list. That's your next place to go to see where it's coming from. So some foods naturally contain sugar, and that's going to be fruits and dairy, right? And both of those can have their health benefits. We're also getting calcium from dairy. We're getting lots of phytonutrients, antioxidants, fiber, vitamins, and minerals from fruits. So we want to think about, if a serving of like watermelon has 15 grams of sugar, well, it's all coming from watermelon. We're only having 2 servings of fruit that day. It's a natural source of sugar. We're going to be getting health benefits. But if we're getting 15 grams of sugar in an Oreo cookie, we're really not getting any health benefits, right? Those are more added sugars, and they're not as nutritious. So we want to stick to the things that are going to give us some bang for our buck. Does that make sense? Okay, questions? All right, I think that we've got one more slide coming up. And this is a visualization exercise, and I'm actually going to send you guys the text to where you can practice this on your own. There's a script that it comes with, and it's an exercise that we typically go through. Today, in the interest of time, I'm just going to email you the script, like I said, but we close our eyes and imagine that we are walking to the beach, swimming in the ocean. It's like a kind of a miniature vacation that we take as we go through this exercise. So it's something that if you were to find that helpful, that might be a good way for you to learn to relax a little bit more on a daily basis and to help kind of fight that stress response with just something really simple that you can do in just a few minutes. And the great thing about visualization is that that's something that you're able to do from anywhere. So it's just a good way to take a time out and have a little bit of a stress break. And I guess there's one more slide that's just a questions and answers type thing. Any questions about anything that we talked about today? Any tips that you guys feel like you could start using right away?
The list at the grocery store.
Yeah, the grocery store. That would be good. So these are just simple things that you could implement at any time to be a little bit healthier. And I think there is a survey in the back of those packets. So if you guys don't mind completing that before you leave, really appreciate it. Just let us know what you thought about the presentation.
And your name again?
Jenny.
Jenny, what website would you recommend us to go to, like if we wanted to find some new healthy recipes or something?
I always like Cooking Well. And it's Eating Well and Cooking Light. Those are 2 of my favorites. And Jamie Oliver has a really good website with simple, healthy recipes.
Jamie Oliver?
Mm-hmm. Have you heard of him?
Oh, yes, Jamie. I thought you said Jamie. Oh,
No,
he's,
Jamie.
English, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, he has a really good website with different recipes on it.